His sect called Lu Ren bloodless, weaker than trash itself. Then his secret pocket dimension gave him 10,000 years to train. Outside, seconds passed while decades turned clumsy movement into instinct. A powerful saint accepted him, only because she wanted no disciple at all. His bronze tower froze his age and preserved his lifespan. Food was the only price for unlimited training time. 55 hidden years opened. The aperture talented students reached within months. That grind soon let him overpower the kingdom's greatest heirs. Before reaching Qingyun Sect, Lu Ren had lived an unremarkable life on Earth. A ridiculous accident ended that life and transported his original body to Xinhua continent. With no family or commitments left behind, the new martial world felt more exciting than frightening. Lu Ren wanted the strength to control his second chance. Yet every local sect rejected his terrible potential. The one advantage traveling with him was a finger-sized bronze tower, bought from an ordinary street stall. After entering his body, the relic opened a silent void, where time barely affected the outside world. Lu Ren could remain there for decades without aging, provided he carried enough food to survive. The cheat solved time, but it could not repair his weak body or open a spiritual aperture automatically. Cultivators needed an aperture before gathering energy, and untalented people usually required a precious opening pill. Qingyun Sect distributed those pills to recruits, making its entrance examination Lu Ren's best remaining chance. He crossed mountains, climbed hundreds of cloud-high steps, and reached the gate nearly unable to stand. More than 1,000 candidates already filled the plaza beneath Elder Zhu Tai's examining platform. Bloodlines ranged from 1st grade through 9th grade, while anything higher belonged to legend. Qingyun accepted only candidates at 4th grade or above, a standard far beyond Lu Ren's earlier results. The testing monument also carried one dull gray mark representing the infamous scrap-grade bloodline. Scrap-grade people were believed incapable of cultivation, because training damaged them instead of producing progress. Hearing that description confirmed Lu Ren had probably traveled across the kingdom only to face public rejection. He began leaving quietly before a white-robed woman descended beside Elder Zhu Tai. She was Yin Xingyao, Qingyun's young saint and a divine sea expert already serving as an elder. Forced by the sect to teach, Yin Xingyao announced she would accept only someone below 2nd grade. Condition looked generous, but everyone understood. She expected no qualified candidate to appear. A disciple that weak would rarely attempt Qingyun's examination, giving her a clean excuse to leave. Lu Ren recognized the opening and called to her before she could escape the plaza. He claimed a 1st grade bloodline and thanked the startled saint for accepting him in advance. Hundreds of candidates turned toward the plainly dressed stranger who had volunteered to become everyone's joke. Yin Xingyao tried to retreat from her own promise, but Lu Ren sprinted onto the platform first. His palm touched the testing monument, and 4 crimson marks illuminated almost immediately. The crowd assumed he had lied, because 4th grade already met the ordinary entrance standard. More marks appeared until all 10 shone, briefly suggesting a divine bloodline beyond the kingdom's recorded geniuses. Elder Zhu Tai nearly cried with joy while Yin Xingyao studied Lu Ren's completely ordinary face. Lu Ren knew the result made no sense, since true divine talent would have awakened naturally years earlier. The 10 lights suddenly vanished, replaced by the monument's dim gray mark. His real classification was scrap grade, exactly the condition considered worse than having no cultivation talent. Laughter replaced celebration. But Lu Ren cared only that he now satisfied Yin Xingyao's public requirement. He bowed and reminded the trapped saint that a scrap-grade disciple ranked below 2nd grade. Yin Xingyao warned that she could not teach someone whose meridians might never open. Lu Ren calmly promised to manage his own cultivation if she merely gave him access to the sect. Cornered by her own words, she accepted him in name and imposed a 1-year deadline. If he failed to open an aperture during that year, Qingyun would expel him. Lu Ren immediately requested the traditional greeting gift, given whenever an elder accepted a personal disciple. His shameless timing irritated Yin Xingyao, yet she still summoned a translucent crimson blade. The fire spirit sword was a genuine low-grade spiritual weapon, worth more than most families earned in years. She dropped it at his feet and disappeared before her new disciple could ask for anything else. Lu Ren now possessed a sect identity, a powerful master, and a treasure despite having the worst bloodline present. Elder Zhu Tai reluctantly placed him aside, while the remaining candidates completed their examinations. Every accepted recruit tested at 4th grade or higher, making Lu Ren the sole gray mark among them. His wooden identity token carried a dragon, a phoenix, and the first official proof of his new life. Qingyun housed the beginners in mountain courtyards and promised one opening pill each month for 1 year. Successful students could also borrow a high-grade human rank technique for 6 months. Lu Ren's room contained only a bed, a table, the sect rules, and a basic cultivation manual. Those books explained the 7 known apertures and the Spirit Creek realm awaiting beyond them. His roommate, Xiao Hua, arrived that evening with an offer to buy Lu Ren's first opening pill. Xiao Hua held a 4th-grade bloodline, but wanted 2 pills to guarantee the earliest possible breakthrough. He initially offered 20,000 copper coins, assuming poverty would make the scrap-grade recruit accept instantly. Lu Ren refused and threatened to auction the pill publicly unless Xiao Hua presented a serious price. When negotiations stalled, he offered the Fire Spirit sword instead. The weapon was worth roughly 1 million copper coins, far beyond Xiao Hua's available allowance. Lu Ren introduced installment payments, requiring a large deposit followed by monthly payments and interest. Xiao Hua understood the advantage of owning the sword immediately and signed the unfamiliar contract. He left carrying Yin Xingyao's gift, while Lu Ren held 200,000 copper coins. Money alone meant little, but money converted into food could purchase decades inside the nameless tower. Lu Ren entered the sect kitchen and asked its stunned head chef for spirit rice in bulk. Spirit rice restored energy far better than ordinary grain, making it ideal for relentless physical training. His payment purchased 4,000 pounds, enough to sustain one person for roughly 55 years. The chef mistook Lu Ren's tower storage for an elite spatial treasure and wisely kept quiet. Back inside his locked room, Lu Ren transferred every bag into the pocket dimension. The void held a small hut, scattered rocks, and enough empty ground to become a private training world. His first objective was strengthening a body much weaker than those of children born on Xinhuang continent. Lu Ren began with thousands of push-ups, sit-ups, and long daily runs around the silent hut. The routine tore his muscles apart until spirit rice repaired them for the next session. After 1 month, the original workload became manageable, so he doubled every exercise. 3 internal years finally gave him a physical foundation, comparable to Qingyun's newest disciples. Only then did Lu Ren begin forcing energy toward the sealed aperture in his lower abdomen. 6 hours of physical punishment alternated with 3 hours of concentration and 3 hours of sleep. 10 years passed without progress, leaving no audience, teacher, or conversation to break the repetition. At 50 years, his body had reached its limit, while the aperture remained completely silent. Any normal cultivator would have grown old and died, yet Lu Ren's unchanged face still belonged to a teenager. 3 years of rice remained, so he continued, rather than wasting half a century of effort. Near the end of the 55th year, burning energy suddenly dragged his blood toward his abdomen. The pressure became unbearable until a cracking sound echoed through his body. Pain vanished, spiritual energy gathered, and Lu Ren finally sensed his first open aperture. The strength flowing from it made his fists powerful enough to drop a bull. 55 years had passed for him, but the outside world had lost only a moment. His bloodline remained terrible, yet unlimited practice had proven that talent was no longer an absolute wall. Resources now mattered more than pills, because every bag of spirit rice bought additional hidden years. Lu Ren left the tower, slept normally, and attended Qingyun's awakening ceremony the following morning. Several elders watched from above, curious as to whether Yin Xingyao's scrap-grade disciple would swallow his first pill. Even his master attended, respecting the determination she believed he still possessed. Elder Zhu Tai distributed glowing opening pills and ordered every recruit to cultivate in the plaza. Lu Ren raised his untouched pill and announced an auction instead. Yin Xingyao interpreted the sale as surrender, then left in bitter disappointment before hearing his explanation. Elder Zhu Tai accused Lu Ren of insulting both Qingyun and the master who had defended him. Lu Ren answered that an opening pill was unnecessary because his aperture had already opened. Laughter swept the plaza until Elder Zhu Tai pressed a palm against Lu Ren's abdomen. The steady pulse of spiritual energy beneath that palm silenced every skeptic. Asked for an explanation, Lu Ren invented a dream in which an immortal had guided his awakening. Elder Zhu Tai accepted the story as a rare ancestral blessing recorded in old sect histories. With official permission secured, Lu Ren reopened the auction among desperate recruits. A bidding war raised the final price to 30,000 copper coins. Elder Zhu Tai also granted him a bronze token for 1 high-grade human rank manual. Lu Ren entered the weapon pavilion as the first recruit to earn that privilege. The high-grade manuals promised lightning fists, sword-like fingers, and techniques his terrible comprehension could barely follow. Instead of choosing impressive words he could not execute, Lu Ren searched the low-grade shelves. Tiger Fist offered clear diagrams and simple movements, suitable for endless repetition. He traded one high-grade choice for three low-grade manuals, covering offense, defense, and movement. Tiger Fist became his weapon, 8 trigram palm his shield, and Spirit Cat steps his escape route. The Pavilion Elder considered that decision realistic for a disciple whose bloodline resisted complex training. Back in the courtyard, even Tiger Fist made Lu Ren resemble an awkward dancer instead of a predator. Xiaohua demonstrated the same technique smoothly and explained its 4 mastery stages. Ordinary talents reached entry quickly, while exceptional students could approach great achievement within days. 1 month of outside practice left Lu Ren unable to display even the first stage. Xiaohua attempted to correct him, then abandoned the lesson after seeing how slowly his body learned. The failure did not frighten Lu Ren, because he had already endured 55 years for 1 aperture. A delayed kitchen shipment finally delivered enough spirit rice for roughly 82 additional years. He locked his door, entered the nameless tower, and opened Tiger Fist from the beginning. 2 years of continuous repetition produced the small achievement stage that Xiaohua expected within days. Lu Ren accepted the humiliating difference and continued throwing the same punches. 30 internal years transformed that basic style into a predatory force capable of exploding solid boulders. Reaching perfection also opened new apertures, as his body adapted to the technique's circulation. Lu Ren next devoted 35 years to 8 trigram palms revolving defensive patterns. Every block redirected incoming force, instead of meeting it with brittle resistance. The remaining years carried Spirit Cat steps to great achievement, making his movement light and difficult to track. When the stored rice finally ran out, 6 apertures pulsed inside him. More than 80 hidden years had passed, while the courtyard clock advanced by only 1 second. Lu Ren returned feeling older in memory, stronger in body, and desperately relieved to hear ordinary sounds again. He soon learned that Yin Xingyao had reclaimed the fire spirit sword from Xiaohua. She believed the roommate had bullied her helpless disciple and forced him to surrender the precious weapon. Xiaohua explained the installment contract, but that only made the transaction sound more ridiculous. Yin Xingyao refunded his deposit, seized her sword, and ordered him not to honor the remaining debt. When Lu Ren arrived for payment, Xiaohua refused and challenged the apparent weakling to touch him. The roommate had opened 1 aperture and assumed Lu Ren still could not perform a basic punch. Lu Ren answered with a perfected palm backed by 6 active reservoirs of spiritual energy. Their attacks collided, and Xiaohua crossed the room before crashing against the wall. Learning that Lu Ren possessed 6 apertures frightened him more than the pain in his arm. Xiaohua finally revealed Yin Xingyao's intervention, ending the debt but explaining his sudden defiance. Lu Ren helped him stand, apologized for the misunderstanding, and left before the roommate could resume complaining. The encounter confirmed a hard rule of this world. Contracts mattered only when strength could enforce them. He returned the 3 manuals to the pavilion, after mastering 2 completely and nearly completing the 3rd. The elder interpreted their quick return as proof that Lu Ren had quit. When Lu Ren said he had mastered everything, the elder dismissed the claim as wounded pride. Yin Xingyao entered shortly afterward and heard that her disciple had supposedly abandoned another opportunity. She left convinced his weak bloodline had destroyed his motivation before she could rebuild it. Lu Ren, meanwhile, needed money for more rice and practical experience against opponents who fought back. Sect missions offered both, though beginners usually joined stronger seniors rather than entering dangerous regions alone. At the Contribution Plaza, senior sister Chu Yu was recruiting the weakest teammates she could find. Chu Yu already held 7 apertures, but delayed advancement, while attempting to open an unprecedented 8th. Mission rules required 4 members, so she chose useless partners and fought every monster herself. Her first selections were Wang Tong and Zhang Shan, Qingyun's famously lazy pair of beginner disciples. Both had spent an entire year opening only 2 apertures despite respectable 4th-grade bloodlines. A spoiled candidate competed for the final position by boasting about his lack of techniques and effort. Lu Ren stepped forward and asked whether uselessness truly required that much practice. His scrap-grade bloodline ended the argument, because no ordinary failure could compete with that classification. Chu Yu accepted him immediately, believing his weakness would preserve the challenge she wanted. Wang Tong and Zhang Shan celebrated losing their shared title as Qingyun's two worst recruits. They then started wrestling over which of them now ranked second from the bottom. Lu Ren ignored the comedy and prepared for dawn, using the team as cover for his real strength. News of his mission reached Yin Xingyao during an elders' meeting about an approaching sect exchange. Qingyun Sect would bring 3 new disciples, including a 6th-grade genius already possessing 7 apertures. Qingyun's leaders wanted Yin Xingyao to train Lu Ren, so his performance would preserve their reputation. The saint learned he had joined Chu Yu's team and assumed he preferred spectating over serious cultivation. Her frustration grew, while Lu Ren traveled toward Black Fox Ridge without knowing she was searching for him. The team reached Black Fox Town, a frontier market crowded with spirit herbs and monster materials. There, Ding Hai blocked Chu Yu's path and claimed she would eventually become his wife. He was a Huangdao outer disciple with 6 apertures and family connections to her hometown. Chu Yu rejected him publicly and ordered her teammates to keep moving. Inside the ridge, Wang Tong promised Lu Ren that their senior sister made every mission completely safe. Lu Ren wanted experience rather than safety, so he studied the dark trees and listened for movement. A granite tiger burst from the brush while chewing the remains of an unlucky traveler. Its stone-like hide and 7 aperture strength made it lethal to most beginners. Chu Yu slipped past the first charge and struck its vulnerable underside with one precise punch. The beast collapsed before Lu Ren could test any of his own techniques. Wang Tong removed its core and happily calculated each teammate's effortless share of the profit. Chu Yu's real objective was 100 aperture grass growing deeper within the dangerous forest. Over 3 days, she defeated wolves, apes, and other first-rank beasts, while the team gathered materials. Lu Ren watched every encounter, learning how monsters shifted their weight before attacking. Beneath an ancient tree, Chu Yu finally found the glowing herb needed for her 8th aperture. The moment she touched it, dark green poison spread from her palm through her arm. Circulating energy only accelerated the toxin, leaving her weaker with every breath. Ding Hai emerged with 3 Huangdao disciples and admitted coating the herb himself. His poison was designed to remove Chu Yu's strength without killing her. Wang Tong denounced the ambush, earning a brutal slap that threw him to the ground. Ding Hai then grabbed Chu Yu and threatened to force a scandal that would secure their marriage. Before he could drag her away, Lu Ren locked one hand around his wrist. Chu Yu warned that Ding Hai's 6 apertures gave him several times Lu Ren's apparent strength. Ding Hai launched Great River Palm, expecting one strike to shatter the scrap-grade recruit. Lu Ren met it directly with the power, accumulated through more than a century of hidden training. The collision drove Ding Hai backward through the dirt, while Lu Ren remained planted. Shock replaced contempt when the Huangdao disciple realized his opponent possessed comparable raw energy. Lu Ren closed the distance before Ding Hai could reconsider the fight. A storm of palm strikes tried to overwhelm him, but perfected 8 trigram palm redirected every attack. When the rhythm opened, Lu Ren switched to Tiger Fist and launched Ding Hai into a tree. The remaining 3 enemies attacked together with claws, punches, and heavy palms from separate angles. Lu Ren became the still center of their assault, circling his hands through every incoming technique. 3 sharp counters struck their chests and dropped all of them within moments. Ding Hai recognized the low-grade defense, but could not understand how it defeated superior martial arts. Chu Yu understood the answer. Lu Ren had carried both low-grade techniques to flawless perfection. Ding Hai invoked his family and offered to forget everything if Lu Ren withdrew. Lu Ren instead broke his ribs underfoot, ending the man who had poisoned and threatened Chu Yu. The other attackers begged for mercy, but leaving witnesses would invite a powerful family's retaliation. 3 decisive strikes ended the ambush before those disciples could escape the ridge. Wang Tong and Zhang Shan struggled with the violence, while Chu Yu understood why hesitation was dangerous. Lu Ren searched Ding Hai, found the antidote, and placed it in her trembling hand. Once the medicine slowed the poison, the group moved to a clearing where she could recover. Chu Yu promised to accept responsibility if Ding Hai's family ever discovered what happened. Her teammates agreed that Black Fox Ridge had swallowed enough disciples to conceal 4 more deaths. Asked how he perfected 2 techniques so quickly, Lu Ren repeated the story of an immortal's guidance. Chu Yu clearly doubted him but respected the secret after he had saved her life. On the return route, Lu Ren finally took the lead against ordinary beasts. Fighting monsters sharpened instincts that decades of striking silent rocks could never develop. Each kill improved his timing, judgment, and comfort under lethal pressure. Chu Yu's gaze softened as she watched the supposed burden become the team's most reliable fighter. A green-scaled python eventually fell beneath Lu Ren's hands, drawing a roar from deeper inside the forest. Its 30-foot parent emerged with emerald armor and a single horn growing above its eyes. The green-scaled Serpent King was evolving toward a lesser dragon after consuming an unknown natural treasure. Even early Spirit Creek cultivators avoided that first-rank king. Yet Chu Yu proposed fighting together. Whatever fueled its evolution could transform their cultivation or sell for an enormous fortune. Wang Tong and Zhang Shan retreated, while Lu Ren volunteered to hold the monster's attention. The serpent's tail shattered earth, and pressurized water pierced trees whenever its attacks missed. Chu Yu's flexible sword struck repeatedly, but the emerald scales resisted her first combinations. Lu Ren activated all 6 apertures and landed on the creature's skull. Tiger Fist drove its head into the ground, roughly 10,000 pounds of force. Water arrows answered from every direction, forcing him to rely on Spirit Cat steps. He slipped between the projectiles, while Chu Yu attacked the distracted serpent's exposed side. Their fists and sword light gradually tore scales free and opened wounds across its enormous body. The serpent's aura suddenly surged as its damaged neck began forming true dragon scales. Completing that evolution would raise it beyond anything the 2 aperture stage fighters can survive. Lu Ren charged through the stronger water barrage and ordered Chu Yu to strike beneath its head. A few burning droplets hit his skin, revealing that his movement technique had not yet reached perfection. Chu Yu found a gap, drove her blade into the belly, and ripped the wound open. A palm-sized shard of crimson jade shot from the serpent and landed in the grass. Losing that treasure collapsed the monster's rising aura before its transformation could finish. Lu Ren rushed forward and broke the serpent's skull beneath a final storm of punches. The battlefield fell silent around the body of a beast. Most beginners would never challenge. Chu Yu lifted the glowing object and identified it as Tuosha Blood Jade. The jade opened Tuosha Ancient Emperor's cave dwelling, a ruin restricted to low-grade bloodlines. That emperor had risen from second-grade talent to a level that dominated the continent. His inheritance might reveal how to change a weak bloodline permanently. Because the cave rejected anyone beyond the aperture realm, Lu Ren had to delay his next breakthrough. Chu Yu gave him the jade, reasoning that a scrap-grade disciple matched the ancient trial better than anyone. Lu Ren promised to enter when the cave opened in roughly 3 months. The team stripped the serpent's horn, scales, and core before returning to Black Fox Town. A material shop paid 480,000 copper coins for everything gathered during the mission. Each teammate received 120,000, more money than Lu Ren had imagined, earning 1 week earlier. He reminded Chu Yu that sharing the blood jade meant he owed her a favor. She rejected the formality, since he had already saved her from poison and lifelong humiliation. At Qingyun's gate, Chu Yu invited him on another mission and left wearing an unusually warm smile. Lu Ren immediately converted his earnings into another 2,400 pounds of spirit rice. The supply purchased 33 hidden years and a chance to correct the weakness exposed by the serpent's water arrows. 13 years inside the tower carried Spirit Cat, steps from great achievement to perfection. Lu Ren could now dart across the void, with afterimages trailing behind his body. The breakthrough also opened his 7th known aperture, completing the ordinary limit of the human body. He still refused the Spirit Creek breakthrough, because entering that realm would disqualify him from Tuosha's cave. Instead, Lu Ren considered opening an 8th aperture like Chu Yu and strengthening his foundation beyond normal limits. When he returned outside, Yin Xingyao was already descending toward his courtyard. She demanded to know whether he disliked her, citing the returned manuals and his mission with Qingyun's weakest team. Lu Ren first assumed she remained angry about the sword, but her real concern was his future. Her scolding made him strangely emotional, because nobody in this world had worried about him so personally. He insisted that he had trained constantly and already opened all 7 apertures. Yin Xingyao dismissed the claim as desperate pride rather than possible progress. Lu Ren then begged her not to expel him, revealing that an orphan had no other family here. That truth softened her anger, and she promised he would remain her disciple regardless of talent. She also explained the Huangdao exchange scheduled in 7 days. Qingyun expected to lose, but the elders wanted Lu Ren to survive several moves and preserve some dignity. Lu Ren promised to defeat Huangdao's 6th-grade genius instead of merely surviving him. Yin Xingyao heard impossible confidence. yet decided to teach him the sword art she had personally created. Her celestial vision sword art contained compact forms inspired by movement across the heavens. Each transition looked effortless in her hands, turning silver blade light into a flowing, lethal pattern. Lu Ren watched every demonstration closely and forgot most of it before she finished. Rather than surrender, Yin Xingyao repeated the first form, more than 20 times at reduced speed. His mind understood the sequence, but his hands failed to reproduce even its opening motion. She stepped behind him, held his wrists, and guided the blade through each change. The close instruction finally gave his muscles a pattern they could begin remembering. Xiao Hua witnessed the lesson, misread its intimacy, and considered requesting another courtyard. For several days, master and disciple trained together from sunrise until the dining hall closed. Their constant public appearances spread rumors that Qingyun Saint was wasting herself on hopeless talent. Yin Xingyao ignored every comment and ordered Lu Ren to prove those disciples wrong. After 3 days, he could reproduce the sword forms, only with stiff, disconnected movements. Seeing the limitation directly left her guilty for demanding what his body might never accomplish. She abandoned the complex art and reduced training to chopping, hacking, stabbing, and parrying. Lu Ren mastered those fundamentals well enough outside to convince her he could at least defend himself. Yin Xingyao returned the fire spirit sword and promised he would always remain her disciple. She ordered him to rest before the exchange, expecting very little from the coming battle. Once alone, Lu Ren entered the tower, with 20 years of spirit rice remaining. 1 internal year of basic strikes carved every angle and recovery into his body. A sword swing then sliced through solid stone, with the ease of cutting soft food. The first true form demanded 7 additional years before his thrust pierced a boulder cleanly. He moved immediately to the second form rather than celebrating a success nobody outside could understand. 12 more years changed drifting blade light into a single compressed point of destructive force. His second form thrust penetrated another boulder before pressure exploded it from within. 2 decades disappeared in solitude, while the real evening advanced by only hours. Lu Ren returned carrying perfect basics and 2 sword forms his master believed he could not perform. At dinner, disciples discussed Huangdao's prodigy and Qingyun's likely 4th consecutive humiliation. Qingyun's best visible beginners held 6 apertures, one behind the strongest announced visitor. A proud recruit named Xiao Yi interrupted Lu Ren's meal and ordered him to renounce Yin Xingyao. Xiao Yi worshipped the saint from afar and considered a scrap-grade disciple, unworthy of standing near her. Lu Ren asked whether Xiao Yi intended to pursue his master, exposing that the criticism served no practical purpose. When the boy denied it, Lu Ren advised him to imitate a long-lived grandmother and mind his own business. The insult nearly triggered a fight inside the dining hall, but Xiao Yi stopped short of drawing steel. Lu Ren reminded him that tomorrow's opponent deserved more attention than another disciple's private relationship. Xiao Yi later boasted to his companions that real combat experience would overcome the prodigy's superior aperture. The next morning, Qingyun gathered around a massive arena beneath the martial hall. Lu Ren reached the elder's platform with the fire spirit sword secured across his back. Xiao Yi mocked his Black Fox mission, calling him the leader of Qingyun's 3 useless beginners. Yin Xingyao forced Xiao Yi to apologize before the assembled elders and disciples. Lu Ren accepted calmly, privately, enjoying protection he had never possessed in either life. Great Elder Ming asked whether he had learned the celestial vision sword art. Lu Ren credited his master's careful teaching and declared the first 2 forms complete. Yin Xingyao concealed her disbelief, assuming he exaggerated the basic drills to protect Qingyun's reputation. Huang Dao's delegation soon entered behind Elder Xia Kuang, a golden-haired man with a lion-like beard. His 3 disciples were Li Jing, Nalan Sheng, and the 6th-grade prodigy Chu Feng. Elder Xia mocked Qingyun for placing a scrap-grade recruit among its representatives. Great Elder Ming replied that useless people existed, but no bloodline should be condemned without proof. A referee announced 3 individual matches, with complete victory awarded if one side swept the first round. Li Jing entered first, identifying herself as a 5th-grade talent with 6 apertures. Yin Xingyao sent Lu Ren against the visitor she considered Huang Dao's weakest competitor. Qingyun's crowd interpreted the choice as a symbolic performance, rather than a serious attempt to win. Wang Tong began taking bets on Lu Ren, using their secret mission knowledge against confident skeptics. Let Xing viewed the pairing as an insult and promised to defeat him before his sword left its sheath. Lu Ren answered that drawing a weapon against her would waste his master's gift. Rage drove Li Jing behind him through leopard steps, faster than many spectators could track. Her mountain-pushing palm compressed the air and struck what appeared to be Lu Ren's exposed back. The target dissolved into an after-image created by perfected spirit cat steps. Lu Ren appeared directly before her and released one clean tiger fist. Li Jing crossed both arms, but the impact launched her beyond the arena boundary. She landed unable to continue, leaving the entire plaza silent before Qingyun erupted. Lu Ren repeated that she had never been worth drawing his sword. Wang Tong loudly collected his winnings, while everyone demanded to know how he predicted the result. He revealed only that Lu Ren had helped kill a serpent king during their mission. Yin Xingyao stared at her disciple, realizing his movement and fist techniques had reached perfection. Other elders surrounded her, begging to learn the training method that produced such impossible progress as. She hid her confusion behind a confident smile and claimed a master always kept a few secrets. Great Elder Ming promised Lu Ren a substantial reward for restoring Qingyun's honor. The second match placed Nalan Xiong against Qingyun recruit named Yang Rong. Nalan moved low to the ground through a twisting wandering snake step. His unpredictable angles overwhelmed Yang Rong's entry-level footwork within a dozen exchanges. A deliberate palm broke ribs and threw the Qi disciple from the arena. Elder Xia defended the unnecessary injury as the proper ruthlessness of martial artists. Xu Feng entered the third match and advised Xiao Yi to surrender before suffering the same fate. Xiao Yi trusted experience to bridge the difference between his 6 apertures and Xu Feng's 7. Xu Feng introduced himself as heir to the Ghost Sword legacy, visibly disturbing Yin Xingyao. He crossed the arena almost instantly and attacked with burning fire fist. Xiao Yi's claw defense yielded step by step beneath punches that Xu Feng delivered without drawing a blade. The Qingyun fighter tried Iron Wolf steps, but Xu Feng neutralized every desperate counter. Only after Xiao Yi mocked him did Xu Feng reveal that he had used less than 1/3 strength. His aura doubled. The next barrage shattered Xiao Yi's guard, and one strike ended the match. Qingyun had won 1 bout and lost 2, apparently giving Huangdao the overall advantage. Elder Xia celebrated while insulting the sect that needed a scrap-grade miracle for its only victory. Nalan Xiong interrupted the closing formalities and requested another round against Lu Ren. Great Elder Ming hesitated because the visitor's brutal footwork had already hospitalized one disciple. Lu Ren accepted before the elders could protect him from a challenge he wanted. During the short break, Yin Xingyao asked whether he genuinely understood Nalan's danger. Lu Ren finally admitted that 7 apertures were open, and his earlier victory used only partial strength. His master pointed at him with equal parts pride, worry, and anger over months of concealment. She postponed the interrogation until after he survived the exchange. Nalan entered promising revenge for Li Jing, while Lu Ren remembered Yang Rong's broken ribs. Their opening fist and palm collided evenly because Lu Ren intentionally reduced his power. He wanted to observe wandering snake steps before ending the battle. Nalan circled with unnatural flexibility and released a chain of serpent-like strikes toward Lu Ren's vital points. 8. Trigram Palm turned those high-grade attacks aside through perfected timing rather than superior rank. Great Elder Ming nearly dropped his tea upon seeing a third low-grade technique at perfection. The Pavilion Elder remembered Lu Ren's claim and finally understood why the manuals returned after 1 month. Nalan increased his power, forcing the low-grade defense close to its practical limit. Lu Ren answered by releasing all 7 apertures through a single tiger fist. Their collision shook the platform, sending Nalan backward more than a dozen steps. Spirit Cat steps erased the remaining distance before the visitor regained balance. A second punch struck Nalan's chest and threw him outside the arena. Qingyun's elders began calling Lu Ren a hidden divine talent rather than a scrap-grade accident. Elder Xia rejected that conclusion and demanded to see how the supposed genius handled Xu Feng. Lu Enxi challenged the Ghost Sword heir directly, and Xu Feng accepted with a confident laugh. After another brief recovery period, both fighters met at the arena's center with swords drawn. Their first exchange used only fundamental chops, stabs, blocks, and changes of angle. Sparks covered the platform as 2 blades moved too quickly for many beginner disciples to follow. Even the elders marveled at Lu Ren's basics, which carried the polish of decades rather than days. Xu Feng escalated with Ghost Sword's first form, Iron Cutter. Lu Ren answered using the second celestial vision form taught by Yin Xingyao. The collision drove Xu Feng backward, proving the scrap-grade disciple held both strength and superior control. Lu Ren followed with the first form, directing a silver thrust toward his opponent's chest. Chu Feng generated overlapping sword shadows that parried the thrust and reversed the pressure. His heavier combinations gradually forced Lu Ren across the arena. One violent clash tore the fire spirit sword from Lu Ren's grip. Chu Feng leaped overhead and unleashed Ghost Sword's third form at the apparently unarmed target. Lu Ren pulled Tuosha Blood Jade from his robe and used the ancient key like a stone shield. Blade struck Jade, releasing an unexpected surge that blasted Chu Feng backward. The priceless relic survived, though every observer considered Lu Ren insane for risking it in a duel. He closed the gap with Tiger Fist before Chu Feng could retrieve his weapon. A sequence of heavy punches knocked the ghost sword air beyond the platform. Qingyun's crowd roared after watching one wonderful defeat all three members of Huang Dao's delegation. Chu Feng protested that Tuosha Blood Jade had decided the battle unfairly. Lu Ren reminded him that the exchange never banned treasures and that survival rarely rewarded excuses. Elder Xia refused to believe someone with scrap-grade talent mastered so many techniques within 2 months. Great Elder Ming ordered Qingyun's true dragon compass brought out for an unquestionable second evaluation. The sect treasure held more than 100 dragon souls and could measure bloodlines with absolute accuracy. A sufficiently powerful cultivator could also activate it as a weapon against a heavenly stellar expert. That destructive reserve protected Qingyun despite the sect lacking its own powerhouse at that realm. Yin Xingyao urged Lu Ren to test, hoping the original monument had hidden a divine bloodline. Lu Ren approached with cold sweat, knowing decades of work rather than talent explained his progress. An ancient guardian floated the golden compass above the platform and instructed him to place one palm upon it. 10 silent breaths passed without a single dragon soul responding. Not even the lowest scrap-grade result appeared, leaving the guardian unsure whether the treasure had failed. The old man tested it himself, instantly summoning 59 golden dragons through the sky. That 5th-grade result proved the compass remained functional and made Lu Ren's silence more disturbing. The guardian finally declared that Lu Ren possessed no measurable bloodline at all. He was bloodless, a condition considered even worse than scrap-grade. Great Elder Ming demanded an explanation for techniques that a bloodless person should never master. The guardian proposed divine comprehension, an extraordinary mind trapped inside an exceptionally poor cultivation vessel. That answer allowed Huang Dao's delegation to leave, relieved that Lu Ren's body supposedly imposed a permanent ceiling. Inside the martial hall, Qingyun's elders rewarded his victory with direct promotion to outer disciple. Lu Ren credited Yin Xingyao again, giving her public honor for teaching the sword forms that secured his final win. Great Elder Ming warned that comprehension alone could not overcome every future cultivation barrier. Bloodline determined how easily the body gathered power, while comprehension governed mastery, an eventual possibility. A gifted mind inside Lu Ren's bloodless body might understand heaven-rank arts yet lack energy to use them. Tuosha, ancient emperor's inheritance, therefore became his only visible chance to rebuild that foundation. Lu Ren accepted the risk without revealing that the nameless tower created his apparent comprehension through time. Outside the sect, Elder Xia told Chu Feng about Tang Hao, Ghost Sword King's prepared successor. Tang Hao had a 3rd-grade bloodline, extraordinary understanding, and 9 apertures opened beyond the ordinary limit. Elder Xia ordered the hidden prodigy to kill Lu Ren inside Tuosha's cave before he reached the inheritance. Yin Xingyao confronted Qingyun's elders after recognizing the same danger. Other sects would learn about Lu Ren and deploy stronger disciples to prevent his bloodline transformation. Great Elder Ming argued that extraordinary growth justified the gamble because Lu Ren chose to enter voluntarily. His master rejected that calculation, saying the sect saw potential while she saw her disciple's life. She caught Lu Ren at his courtyard and directly forbade him from entering Tuosha's cave. Yin Xingyao described disciples with 8 or 9 apertures, yellow rank techniques, and decades of preparation. Lu Ren answered that remaining bloodless would make every later wall even more dangerous. The cave was lethal, but refusing its only opportunity guaranteed a future defined by limitation. His determination forced her to compromise. Rather than issue an order he would ignore, she demanded mastery of the 3rd and 4th celestial vision forms before granting permission. Yin Xingyao considered that impossible within the remaining time, especially for a bloodless disciple. Lu Ren raised the wager, asking her never to interfere with his choices if he succeeded. Her pride accepted before caution, reminded her how often his impossible claims became real. News of his exchange victory soon filled the courtyard with congratulating disciples and eager admirers. Several young women even proposed cultivation partnerships to Qingyun's newly famous outer disciple. Lu Ren spent hours clearing the crowd before Wang Tong arrived, carrying betting profits. Wang Tong gave him 50,000 copper coins, representing half the money won on the first duel. When Lu Ren requested a larger loan, his carefree senior produced another 150,000. The full amount purchased enough spirit rice for roughly 54 internal years. Lu Ren entered the tower and began the third form with 7 apertures, supplying every repetition. 7 years produced a lightning-fast thrust, 3 times stronger than the preceding sword form. He spent additional months refining control until a single strike covered a boulder in hairline fractures. One breath collapsed that damaged rock into a mound of gravel. The fourth form demanded a continuous storm of attacks, without giving an opponent room to recover. 10 more years transformed the fire spirit sword into a hurricane of piercing light. A massive practice boulder remained standing, only because countless holes had replaced most of its interior. Those 2 forms consumed 17 hidden years, leaving ample rice, but no reason to repeat solve training. Lin returned outside, knowing Chu Feng would no longer survive even the opening exchange. The following morning, Elder Zhu Tai registered him permanently as an outer disciple. 5 azure uniforms and a blood-linked stone token confirmed his new position. If Lu Ren died, the token's internal formation would break, preventing anyone from impersonating him. Outer status also protected him from expulsion, if progress later stalled. Elder Zhu Tai led him across iron chain bridges toward Qingyun's richer outer mountain range. Spiritual energy filled the air so densely that ordinary breathing refreshed his exhausted body. True Spirit Creek cultivators could absorb that energy directly, instead of relying on common meals. Training grounds displayed high-grade human arts and occasional yellow-rank techniques far beyond the beginner peaks. Lu Ren received a private courtyard twice the size of his previous shared residence. Yin Xingyao visited after Elder Zhu Tai left and congratulated the disciple she had once accepted by accident. Lu Ren immediately claimed victory in their wager and announced that both required sword forms were complete. She laughed until he drew the fire spirit sword and demonstrated them flawlessly. Thunder-like penetration flowed directly into a relentless rainstorm, without one broken transition. Yin Xingyao stared at the finished sequence, unable to connect it with yesterday's supposedly clumsy student. Even so, she argued that prepared cave competitors possessed yellow rank arts stronger than his human rank forms. Lu Ren explained that transforming his bloodline mattered partly because he wanted her choice to stop attracting ridicule. She snapped that his survival mattered more than anyone's opinion of her judgment. Recognizing the same stubbornness she carried, Yin Xingyao finally promised to accompany him to the entrance. She also began creating a 5th sword form that might improve his odds. Alone again, Lu Ren visited the outer martial pavilion, seeking another practical technique. Its elder warned that the collection began with high-grade human manuals unsuitable for a bloodless body. Then he secretly offered a privately owned low-grade body refining manual for 500,000 copper coins. The chi-tempering body secret promised an eventual glazed golden body, resistant to peer-level attacks. Its low rank reflected an unbearable training requirement, rather than weak results. The first level required thousands of slow energy cycles and at least 10 years of continuous effort. No talented outsider disciple wanted to waste a decade on a foundation art, when faster techniques offered immediate power. Lu Ren requested 15 minutes to inspect the manual before discussing its absurd price. Once the elder relaxed, he carried the borrowed book into the nameless tower. The method divided progress into chi nourishment, steel bones, iron flesh, and the final golden body. Lu Ren sat cross-legged and circulated energy from all 7 apertures through every layer of skin. The consumption was 10 times heavier than ordinary free training, forcing him to burn through spirit rice rapidly. Years of repetition expelled dark impurities through his pores and gradually lightened his body. Exactly 10 internal years completed chi nourishment, leaving skin smooth as silk but tough as leather. His unaided physical strength now surpassed many early Spirit Creek cultivators. The second level required a higher realm, so he returned outside after only 1 visible second. Lu Ren handed back the manual and declined every lower price the pavilion elder offered. Pressed for a reason, he claimed a traveling expert had already taught him similar body refinement. Rolling up one sleeve revealed the unmistakable luster of completed chi nourishment. The elder knew that achievement required a decade, yet Lu Ren had possessed apertures for only a few months publicly. Lu Ren reduced the truth to several months and left before more questions endangered his secret. Back home, he tested strength that now combined 7 apertures, perfected techniques, and a tempered body. An ordinary 8-aperture fighter no longer seemed capable of threatening him. After so many hidden decades, Lu Ren spent several real days, eating and sleeping without training. Yin Xingyao used those days to complete the 5th celestial vision form. She arrived expecting relentless practice and instead found her disciple snoring late in the afternoon. Anger drove her to pull his ear, waking combat instincts sharpened by years of isolation. Lu Ren struck reflexively, shattering her defensive energy net and pushing the startled saint backward. Yin Xingyao realized his raw body now carried force that should have belonged to an 8-aperture expert. Lu Ren avoided explaining the tower and redirected her attention toward the promised 5th sword form. In the courtyard, Yin Xingyao swept her blade through every fallen leaf without disturbing the ground beneath them. Wind sweeps the clouds carried the entry-level force of a genuine yellow rank technique. She again guided his wrist, then froze when his skin felt denser than polished stone. Lu Ren claimed the outer pavilion's body refining manual had produced his transformation. His first independent attempt at the new sword form remained deliberately clumsy enough to preserve that explanation. Yin Xingyao ordered continued practice and turned away before noticing the blood jade trembling inside his robe. Crimson light pulsed from the relic, signaling that Tuosha's cave dwelling was opening earlier than predicted. Similar jades awakened across Qingyun Kingdom, drawing every prepared competitor toward the martial forest mountains. Yin Xingyao summoned a 3rd-rank cloud sparrow and pulled Lu Ren onto its broad green back. The beast's power matched a cloud sea cultivator, and its wings crossed the kingdom with astonishing speed. Lu Ren sat behind his master, while Cutting Wind pressed hard enough to injure an ordinary aperture stage body. Completed chi nourishment let him endure the flight without exposing any weakness. Once Yin Xingyao focused on navigation, Lu Ren slipped his consciousness into the nameless tower. 20 hidden years passed during the flight, while he repeated wind sweeps the clouds. The 5th form eventually became a sweeping gale of sword light, equal to a low-grade yellow rank attack. Lu Ren returned to his body as the Cloudspire descended into a canyon packed with martial artists. The valley held teenage disciples, middle-aged veterans, and elders who had suppressed their realms for years. A 10-foot crimson door stood sealed inside the cliff, with Tuosha's name carved above it. Other jade holders mocked the only competitor, publicly known as Bloodless. Yin Xingyao warned that several entrants had deliberately opened 9 apertures without entering Spirit Creek. Before the doors moved, a black-robed swordsman approached and ridiculed her choice of disciple. Gu Yifan was another kingdom prodigy and a leading disciple of Ghost Sword King. Behind him stood Tang, the young successor prepared specifically for Tuosha's inheritance. Lu Ren answered Gu Yifan's contempt by asking what kind of thing had crawled over to speak. The insult triggered a crushing wave of energy from the older swordsman. Yin Shi stepped ahead of Lu Ren and shattered the pressure with one casual motion. Gu Fan addressed her as his junior sister, revealing their shared history under Ghost Sword King. She rejected that title because she had abandoned the legacy and built her own path. When he boasted of Ghost Sword's 10th form, Yin Xingyao challenged him to demonstrate it. Sword intent rose around her, as invisible blades seemed to fill the canyon. Gu Yifan launched a black ghostly weapon, carrying the image of a devouring phantom. The attack stopped several feet from Yin Xingyao, unable to penetrate her surrounding intent. Purple lightning gathered into a dragon-shaped blade and crashed through his defense. By the 7th exchange, Gu Yifan's sword left his hand and blood marked his mouth. Yin Xingyao spared him, only because their former connection still held some weight. Humiliated before the valley, he promised that Lu Ren would never leave the cave alive. Tang Hao stepped forward and repeated the threat more directly. He possessed 9 apertures, a 3rd-grade bloodline, and every resource Ghost Sword King could provide. Lu Ren accepted the challenge, promising to wait for him inside. More sect elders arrived while roughly 50 qualified entrants gathered beside the stone door. Most competitors were older than 30 and had maintained the aperture realm solely for this chance. The crimson seal finally opened, releasing white light and an ancient voice from the mountain. Entry required Tuosha blood jade, a bloodline below 4th grade, and cultivation no higher than aperture opening. The voice promised its inheritance to whoever survived every trial. Lu Ren told his master he was entering, then jumped through before fear could become another discussion. Teleportation dropped him onto a vast stone altar, patterned like 8 trigrams. 8 gates surrounded the platform, each marked by an element and a direction. Random transport also placed a middle-aged warrior, named Xiao En, on the same altar. Seeing the famous bloodless disciple alone made Xiao En believe fortune had chosen him. He carried 8 apertures, 30 years of training, and a broadsword technique at perfection. Before attacking, Xiao En explained that each gate held a trial, leading toward the central inheritance. Lu Ren interrupted the speech with a thrust, too fast for the veteran to follow. The fire spirit sword pierced Xiao En's heart before his heavy blade completed its first movement. Lu Ren searched the body and found a black storage ring filled with useful supplies. Its contents included copper, several weapons, 13 low-grade spirit stones, and 1 secret manual. The explosive spirit art fused energy from multiple apertures into a temporary vortex of multiplied strength. Lu Ren recognized a perfect answer to Tang Hao's superior aperture count. Spirit stones could not advance him safely before Spirit Creek, but their energy could sustain tower training. He cut 1 small fragment from a stone and swallowed it experimentally. Concentrated power flooded his body until all 7 apertures reached capacity. 1 low-grade spirit stone cost more than most disciples earned through months of missions. Consuming them as food was extravagant, but dead cultivators could not protect saved resources. Lu Ren entered the nameless tower with the manual and began merging 2 reservoirs of energy. Early vortices collapsed repeatedly, wasting power and leaving him hollow enough to consume more fragments as 5 hidden years finally stabilized the energy from 2 apertures into 1 violent center. Directing that force through a fist produced strength far beyond the sum of both reservoirs. Improved control let him incorporate the 3rd aperture in less time than the first pair. The 4th and 5th followed, as repetition refined every dangerous transition. A fist-sized vortex eventually spun inside his chest without tearing his meridians apart. 1 test punch sent a visible shock wave through the tower's empty air. Its force reached roughly 10,000 pounds, matching fighters who had opened 10 apertures. The 13 spirit stones were gone, but the secret art had changed his survival odds completely. Lu Ren left the tower and chose the water gate as his first trial. The altar vanished, replaced by an endless ocean under waves as tall as mountains. A wall of water, struck with crushing weight, testing endurance rather than technique. Qi-tempered skin and decades of physical conditioning kept Lu Ren's bones intact. He pushed against the current until the next marked gateway appeared through the spray. Crossing it transported him from freezing water into a field of blazing pillars. Molten giants emerged from the flames, with strength near the 7 aperture level. Their numbers created danger, but each body remained vulnerable to his perfected sword forms. Lu Ren moved through the horde, dividing fiery torsos before they completed their attacks. The next portal opened into a realm where lightning bolts struck without predictable rhythm. Spirit cat steps carried him between flashes that cratered the ground inches from his feet. Another gate filled the sky with falling boulders, large enough to crush ordinary entrants. Lu Ren broke them apart, using raw strength before fragments could pin him. Wind blades awaited beyond the following gate, slashing clothes and exposed skin from every direction. Nourishment turned injuries that should have cut deeply into shallow marks. 1 elemental world followed another, each testing a different part of his hidden preparation. Lu Ren completed 6 gates faster than many observers believed possible. He did not know that formations outside the cave displayed every trial to the waiting crowd. Yin Xingyao watched the disciple she had considered helpless cut through obstacles designed for exceptional veterans. Gu Yifan dismissed each success as borrowed technique, unable to compensate for a bloodless foundation forever. Lu Ren finally entered the most difficult gate and found only white mist. Crimson light condensed into 8 lion-like beasts covered in dragon scales. Their strength matched his own, and the trial demanded survival for 1 incense stick. An ancient voice revealed that only 30 of more than 1,000 challengers had ever passed. The 8 beasts attacked together before the warning fully ended. Lu Ren cleaved one in half, but its body became 2 clouds of crimson flame. Those flames reformed as 2 separate beasts, increasing the number instead of reducing it. 2 more kills multiplied the attackers again and exposed the trap. Lu Ren switched to defense, planning to evade until the incense burned out. Spirit Cat Steps and the Fire Spirit Sword held 13 creatures beyond striking distance. The trial changed its rule without warning when untouched beasts began splitting independently. 13 became 26, threatening to fill every path through the mist. Lu Ren abandoned passive survival and released all 7 apertures. A rainstorm of sword light pierced the entire pack before another division completed. 26 bodies dissolved into floating embers that gathered at the center. Instead of vanishing, the flames fused into one colossal beast 10 times larger. Its aura surpassed Lu Ren's, and the first breath filled the void with falling fire. He avoided the barrage, but the creature adjusted and charged with unexpected intelligence. 3 exchanges tore the first spirit sword from his grip and pushed him toward the mist's boundary. Outside till rival elders concluded that low-grade techniques had finally reached their limit. Yin Xingyao refused to look away and quietly declared that she still believed in him. With no room left to dodge, Lu Ren planted his feet and raised 8 trigram palm. The beast's claw struck like a falling mountain and launched him across the white ground. Blood reached his mouth, yet the impact produced bruises rather than shattered bones. 55 years of physical training and qi nourishment had built a body capable of absorbing the punishment. Lu Ren stood and challenged the creature to hit harder. Repeated claws crashed against his rotating palms, producing thunder throughout the mist. Each redirected collision returned part of the beast's own force through its flaming structure. Cracks spread over the giant. After a dozen exchanges it expected to dominate. One final rebound broke the construct apart and cleared the white void. The incense expired with Lu Ren still standing, officially completing the 8-gate trial. Outside Qingyun's elders celebrated, while Yin Xingyao smiled at a victory she could not claim as her teaching. Passing the gate transported Lu Ren onto a vast plaza surrounded by weathered stone pillars. A blood-red portal hovered above its far side, marking the entrance to Tuosha's ultimate trial. The obvious move was rushing through before another contender arrived. Lu Ren instead examined his bruises, empty energy reserves, and limited knowledge of whatever waited beyond. The previous guardian had disarmed him within 3 exchanges, despite every advantage already revealed. Entering the final trial in that condition would convert speed into an unnecessary death sentence. He hid behind one of the largest pillars and entered the nameless tower to recover. Observers outside could no longer see him clearly, and assumed fear had replaced his earlier confidence. Elder Xia mocked the bloodless disciple for hiding, while the only open inheritance waited nearby. Great Elder Ming worried because only one's challenger could occupy the ultimate trial at a time. If someone entered first, Lu Ren might lose the opportunity, without ever testing himself. Qingyun Sect recognized that her disciple rarely made careless decisions once real danger appeared. Inside the tower, Lu Ren restored his body and listened for movement through the relic's connection. He needed additional power, but the cave offered no kitchen, and his original spirit stones were gone. Other competitors carried decades of collected resources inside their storage rings. Lu Ren decided anyone attacking him would unknowingly finance the next stage of his training. Plan required patience, concealment, and enough restraint to appear injured when the right opponent arrived. A ripple crossed the plaza as an elderly warrior materialized near the red portal. His white hair and scarred forehead identified Hong Qi, one of the cave's most dangerous veteran contenders. 9 open apertures, a 3rd-grade bloodline, and decades of combat experience supported his reputation. Hong Qi saw no rivals and smiled at the ultimate trial, as though the inheritance already belonged to him. Lu Ren returned behind the pillar and deliberately kicked one loose stone across the floor. The veteran spun toward the sound with energy, already gathering in his hand. Lu Ren stepped into view hunched over, leaving dried blood visible at the corner of his mouth. Recognition turned Hong Qi's caution into confidence. Almost immediately, a 7th aperture bloodless youth wounded by the hardest gate looked like an effortless final obstacle. Lu Ren asked what he wanted, letting fear meter enter his voice. Hong Qi answered plainly that only one person could claim the trial, so Lu Ren had to die. The younger fighter warned that his injuries were the veteran's only advantage. That challenge encouraged Hong Qi to attack directly rather than examine the suspicious situation. He released Dragon's Seizing Hand, a high-grade technique that formed a spectral claw around his palm. Pressure reached Lu Ren before the strike and locked the surrounding air against escape. He remained motionless until the glowing hand approached, within inches of his face. 5 apertures collapsed into the explosive spirit art's stable vortex. Lu Ren launched a basic tiger fist carrying power Hong Qi could not sense in advance. The techniques met with a crack that echoed between every pillar. Hong Qi's right arm shattered, and the rest of his body flew backward across the plaza. He landed unable to rise, staring at the bloodless youth through disbelief and sudden terror. Dragon's Seizing Hand had reached peak mastery, yet a low-grade fist had broken it completely. Hongqi demanded to know how 7 apertures produced more force than his 9. Lu Ren ended the question with one clean follow-up strike before the veteran could recover. The observers outside watched their favorite contender disappear from the formation's display. Behind the pillar, Lu Ren removed a jade storage ring from Hongqi's thumb. The ring contained 500,000 copper coins, technique scrolls, and 20 low-grade spirit stones. Those stones represented more than money because each could sustain years inside the nameless tower. Lu Ren concealed the body, transferred the resources, and re-entered his private void. Concentrated energy from the first stones repaired what the 8-gate guardian had consumed. He resumed explosive spirit training with 5 apertures already integrated into the vortex. Adding the 6th required, controlling a larger flow without letting accumulated pressure rupture his meridians. Every failed attempt scattered energy through his chest and demanded another careful recovery. Lu Ren treated each collapse as information rather than wasted time. He adjusted the sequence, stabilizing earlier reservoirs before inviting the 6th stream. 20 hidden years finally produced a vortex capable of holding all 6 apertures together. The completed release carried roughly 12,000 pounds of striking force. A fighter would ordinarily need 12 apertures to generate that level of raw power. More than 20 internal years of spirit energy remained, but adding the 7th reservoir risks consuming all of it. Lu Ren instead opened Hongqi's scrolls and selected techniques that addressed specific combat gaps. Sword Finger converted concentrated energy into a precise cutting attack without requiring a drawn weapon. Mountain Shaker focused strength through stance and impact against opponents too solid to launch normally. 7 Scars Palm chained deceptive angles together while concealing the decisive final strike. Each art was superior to his earliest low-grade collection, but still understandable through determined repetition. Years inside the tower separated every motion into foot placement, breath, circulation, release, and recovery. Sword Finger reached peak mastery after countless lines carved across practice boulders. Mountain Shaker followed when Lu Ren learned to drive force through the ground before sending it forward. 7 Scars Palm required longer because its false openings had to look convincing even under pressure. The remaining tower time ended, with all 3 techniques settled into instinct. Lu Ren stepped outside after another private lifetime had passed within 1 public second. His clothes, face, and apparent age remained unchanged, hiding the experience behind his ordinary appearance. Only the calm in his eyes suggested that the wounded recruit Hongqi attacked no longer existed. He returned to the same shadowed position and watched the red portal without approaching it. An incense stick burned before a second contender finally completed the gates. Black Sword first appeared through the teleportation light, followed by Tang Hao's confident figure. The young successor surveyed the empty plaza and assumed he had beaten every rival there. Lu Ren tightened his grip on the fire spirit sword and prepared to repeat the successful ambush. Before he could move, the air fractured with dozens of simultaneous spatial ripples. Men and women materialized across the plaza, despite being at different points in their individual trials. Roughly 40 confused competitors appeared within moments, turning a quiet confrontation into a crowd standoff. Tang Hao abandoned the center and concealed himself behind another pillar. He intended to wait until stronger veterans weakened one another before revealing his full strength. Lu Ren understood that the Ghost Sword's successor was also waiting for his promised target. Several entrants examined flickering arrays and concluded the ancient ruin was losing power. Failing energy had collapsed incomplete trials and transported every surviving candidate into the central plaza. The ultimate portal was now exposed to everyone, regardless of how many gates they had passed. That realization erased order faster than any elder could have controlled from outside. One desperate warrior sprinted toward the inheritance while shouting that fortune belonged to whoever moved first. Saber light cut across his path before he covered 5 steps. Su Fu, a seasoned veteran who had reached the central area in previous openings, claimed the route. His 4th-grade bloodline sat at the cave's maximum permitted threshold. A heavy saber and years of repeated attempts made him one of the crowd's most respected fighters. The formation failure looked like compensation for every earlier trip that ended before the inheritance. A silver-robed contender ordered his retainers to clear Su Fu away from the portal. Several older warriors rushed together, hoping numbers could exhaust the veteran's superior technique. Su Fu planted both hands on his saber and released dominant saber slash. A wide blade arc tore through their formation, and nearly divided two attackers before they escaped. The remaining group scattered, unwilling to trade life for another man's opportunity. Observers recognized a yellow rank technique, cultivated all the way to perfection. At the aperture realm, that achievement made Su Fu nearly impossible for ordinary competitors to challenge directly. Several opportunists changed sides and offered to guard the portal in exchange for future rewards. Su Fu accepted their protection and stepped closer to the red light. Tang Hao chose that moment to explode from concealment, with his black sword already descending. Su Fu raised the saber across his chest, barely in time. Steel collided, and the veteran slid backward, despite having both feet anchored. Tang Hao landed between him and the portal, smiling as though the interruption had always been planned. Su Fu demanded to know why someone present earlier had waited instead of entering. Tang Hao admitted he had promised to kill Lu Ren before attempting the inheritance. Since the bloodless disciple had not appeared, he assumed the 8 gates had already eliminated him. The Ghost Sword's successor ordered everyone else away from the portal. When Su Fu resisted, Tang Hao released the full pressure of his cultivation. 10 separate aperture pulses rolled across the plaza and turned several younger faces pale. Only weeks earlier, public information placed him at 9 apertures. Ghost Sword King's resources had forced open a 10th reservoir beyond the ordinary human limit. Su Fu's perfected yellow rank saber no longer seemed enough to overcome that raw difference. The veteran tightened his grip but remained silent. Rather than begin a fight he expected to lose, Tang Hao interpreted the retreat as universal submission and turned toward the ultimate portal. Lu Ren lifted Hongqi's concealed body and launched it from behind his pillar. The corpse crossed the plaza toward Tang Hao's unprotected back. Sensing danger, Tang Hao spun and divided it in midair with one cold sword flash. Recognition struck when the scarred face appeared between the separating halves. Hongqi's death meant someone had defeated a 9-aperture veteran before Tang Hao arrived. Blood spread through the air, creating a crimson curtain between the Ghost Sword successor and the pillar. Lu Ren burst through that curtain with the Fire's Spirit Sword, aimed at Tang Hao's center line. The black sword rose just before impact, preventing a lethal opening thrust. Their first collision still forced Tang Hao several steps backward before the entire crowd. Shock replaced his earlier smile when Lu Ren emerged alive, recovered, and visibly stronger than expected. Lu Ren leveled the crimson blade and challenged him to a life-and-death duel. Tang Hao stared as though a person with apertures had volunteered for execution. Other competitors shared that disbelief, because they had felt the pressure from his newly opened 10th reservoir. Su Fu said nothing, but the veteran's eyes moved from Hongqi's body to Lu Ren's steady sword. Killing Hongqi while wounded suggested abilities the public bloodline test could never explain. Tang Hao accepted with a laugh that carried more insult than amusement. He warned the crowd that anyone entering the portal during their duel would doom that person's entire family. The threat worked because Ghost Sword King's influence extended far beyond the cave. Every contender withdrew from the open path, forming a broad ring around both fighters. Tang Hao drew his ancient black sword and released an aura as sharp as exposed steel. Lu Ren brought the Fire Spirit Sword into a relaxed middle guard. No elder could interfere inside the ruin, leaving skill, preparation, and killing intent as the only rules. Outside, Gu Yifan smiled at the confrontation his side had prepared for months. Yin Xingyao watched with one hand closed around her own sword hilt. She had defeated Gu Yifan, but the cave's restriction made her powerless to protect Lu Ren now. Great Elder Ming tried to judge whether 7 apertures and divine comprehension could survive against 10. Elder Xia expected Tang Hao's superior bloodline and secret resources to end the contest quickly. The plaza became quiet enough for both swordsmen to hear each other's breathing. Tang Hao lowered his center of gravity and aligned the black blade with Lu Ren's throat. Lu Ren studied the shoulder, wrist, and forward foot rather than staring at the weapon. Decades of solitary drilling had made movement readable before a technique fully appeared. Tang Hao launched first with Ghost Sword's iron cutter. Black energy lengthened the blade and formed a descending edge, meant to divide guard and body together. Chu Feng had used the same form during the sect exchange. Tang Hao's version carried greater speed, cleaner structure, and the pressure of 3 additional apertures. Lu Ren drew power from the storage ring and released the Fire Spirit Sword in one continuous motion. His thrust entered the narrow gap beneath iron cutter instead of confronting the descending edge directly. Crimson steel struck the black blade near its weakest angle. Tang Hao's technique broke apart before its energy could reach full extension. The backlash traveled into his arms and threw his weight onto the rear foot. Lu Ren's first counter forced the 10-aperture genius backward, like someone struck by lightning. Tang Hao recovered balance with a twist, preventing the retreat from becoming a fall. His widened eyes revealed that the clean reversal had not existed in any prediction. Iron Cutter had defeated experienced aperture stage warriors, not merely young disciples. A Bloodless had dismantled it, using timing rather than a higher-ranked art. Tang Hao started asking how that was possible, but Lu Ren advanced before the sentence formed. Giving an enemy time to analyze had never been part of his survival strategy. Lu Ren activated the explosive spirit art and gathered 5 apertures into the hidden vortex. Energy compressed inside his chest, then flooded shoulder, elbow, wrist, and blade. The fire spirit sword accelerated until crimson light remained along its path. Tang Hao raised Ghost Sword vertically and caught the first sweep near his face. The impact shook both weapons, but only the black blade lost position. Lu Ren reversed immediately and attacked from the opposite side before Tang Hao reset his stance. Another metallic crack crossed the plaza and drove the successor sideways. A third strike descended, forcing him to block with both hands around the hilt. Tang Hao's 10 apertures supplied tremendous energy, yet each collision carried force beyond his own output. He changed footwork, retreating along a curve to reduce direct pressure. Lu Ren matched that angle through perfected spirit cat steps. Distance never opened far enough for Tang Hao to launch a complete ghost sword form. Fire Spirit's sword attacked again and again, each motion connected to the recovery of the previous one. The tempo resembled violent storm, though Lu Ren prioritized control over displaying the form publicly. Tang Hao parried high, low, then across his center, while black sparks scattered around his robes. Every successful defense still forced his arms closer to collapse. Su Fu watched the exchange with the attention of a veteran discovering a new threat. The crowd had expected a desperate underdog, surviving through tricks. Instead, the recognized genius was the one being denied space to breathe. Tang Hao tried to interrupt with a short shoulder charge between 2 sword beats. Lu Ren shifted half a step and let the charge pass beside his body. The fire spirit sword's flat struck Tang Hao's forearm before he could turn. Numb fingers loosened around the black hilt for one dangerous instant. Tang Hao recovered the grip, but Lu Ren's next slash attacked it directly. Crimson and black blades collided near their guards, with an explosion of concentrated energy. Tang Hao's weapon spun free and clattered several yards across the stone. Its owner followed, thrown onto his back by the same overwhelming momentum. Breath left his chest, and blood rose through his throat before he could suppress it. The 10-aperture successor coughed across the tiles, while his carefully controlled aura withered. Lu Ren stopped outside kicking distance, rather than rushing into a concealed counter. Tang Hao demanded to know how 7 apertures produced strength greater than 10. The question ignored chi nourishment, physical tempering, and centuries of private technique refinement. It also ignored the explosive spirit art, fusing 5 reservoirs into one release. None of those answers belonged to Tang Hao, so Lu Ren offered only contempt. He asked whether Ghost Sword King's carefully raised genius had already reached his limit. Tang Hao looked toward the black weapon, lying beyond his immediate reach. Lu Ren called himself the same trash Yipin had mocked outside the cave. That trash now stood over the successor chosen to seize an emperor's inheritance. The words attacked Tang Hao's identity more effectively than another ordinary wound. He had spent years receiving superior medicine, manuals, and personal instruction because failure was considered impossible. Losing to a bloodless recruit made every advantage look like evidence against him. His face drained of color before anger forced blood back into it. Tang Hao rejected the result aloud and tried to rise using one shaking arm. Lu Ren remained ready, recognizing that wounded pride often produced less predictable danger than calm calculation. Tang Hao's energy stopped flowing normally and began striking his apertures from within. The unstable pulses changed from 10 separate rhythms into one violent, expanding pressure. Su Fu recognized the method and ordered everyone farther from the duel. Tang Hao was preparing to detonate his apertures rather than accept defeat. The process would destroy his cultivation base and damage foundations Ghost Sword King had built for years. It would also release enough temporary force to kill someone already standing close. Competitors retreated behind pillars, while Lu Ren measured the growing pressure. Tang Hao crawled toward the black sword, without stopping the self-destructive circulation. His fingers closed around the hilt, and jagged shadow erupted along its entire length. Blood leaked from his mouth, nose, and the corners of his eyes under internal strain. The successor laughed through the pain and promised Lu Ren would still die first. 10 rupturing apertures turned his earlier precision into a wild surge of available power. Ghost Sword's fifth form, spread black sword, shadows outward like a demonic ritual. Each shadow carried enough edge to punish the smallest mistake in movement. Together, they closed the direct path forward and sealed the obvious routes sideways. Tang Hao rose within that expanding formation, held upright by rage and temporary energy. Gu Yifan watched from outside with renewed hope that the legacy's successor would complete his order. Elder Xia argued that no aperture stage body could withstand a self-detonating fifth form. Great Elder Ming could no longer see a safe opening through the shadow net. Qingyun Xingyao focused on Lu Ren's feet and remembered the perfected movement displayed against Li Jing. Lu Ren tapped one foot against the plazas and shifted his weight forward. Spirit Cat steps made his first movement light enough to leave no clear starting point. A black edge passed behind his shoulder before Tang Hao understood that he had advanced. Lu Ren rotated between two converging shadows, keeping the fire spirit sword close to his center. Another jagged strike crossed, where his ribs had been one breath earlier. Qi, nourishment protected him from scattered energy, but a direct hit could still cut through the tempered body. Speed alone was insufficient, because the formation adjusted whenever Tang Hao moved his real sword. Lu Ren therefore read the wielder, rather than reacting separately to every shadow. Tang Hao's eyes tracked the target while his damaged wrist directed the next convergence. A slight elbow drop announced a low sweep before black energy fully formed. Lu Ren stepped above it and used the opening to advance another yard. The successor dragged his blade upward, generating a vertical shadow aimed through Lu Ren's landing point. Spirit Cat steps changed direction in mid-transition and placed him beyond the edge. Tang Hao screamed that evasion could not continue forever. Lu Ren agreed silently and kept moving toward the center instead of searching for an exit. Every successful step reduced the space available for the sword shadows to multiply safely. Tang Hao increased the detonation rate, sacrificing more of his future for immediate speed. The black formation thickened until the plaza behind Lu Ren disappeared from view. Air screamed around countless edges, carrying dust from newly carved lines in the floor. Lu Ren's sleeves opened in several places where near misses passed too close. Shallow cuts appeared beneath the torn cloth, proving the fifth form remained dangerous, even without direct contact. He continued forward, because retreat would give Tang Hao room to restore the formation's full reach. The fire spirit sword began gathering energy, while Lu Ren still navigated the black maze. 6 apertures fed a growing cyclone through the stabilized explosive spirit art. That reserve exceeded the 5-aperture release that had already disarmed Tang Hao. Tang Hao sensed the rising power, but could not stop detonating his own foundations without losing the temporary advantage. He called Lu Ren's movement useless and drove more shadows toward the narrowing approach. One blade image descended from above, while 2 crossed at waist height. Lu Ren shortened his stride, passed beneath the first, and rotated through the crossing point. The timing placed 3 attacks behind him, without forcing one backward step. Tang Hao changed the fifth form again, concentrating scattered shadows into a denser wall near his body. That decision improved defense, but weakened the long-range pressure surrounding Lu Ren. Spirit Cat steps used the released space to accelerate. Lu Ren's silhouette flickered between black edges too quickly for several watching competitors to follow. Su Fu tracked him by the sparks appearing whenever Crimson Steel redirected a shadow at the final instant. Those small parries preserved momentum, without committing enough force to slow the advance. Tang Hao saw the remaining distance collapse and swung his real blade in a panicked horizontal arc. Lu Ren ducked beneath it while the explosive spirit vortex continued spinning uninterrupted. The black sword passed close enough to lift several strands of hair. Fire spirit sword remained low, concealing the angle of the counter being prepared. Tang Hao claimed that no bloodless cultivator could block power purchased with 10 shattered apertures. Lu Ren answered that destroying those apertures did not repair weak control. The insult exposed the difference between energy accumulated through resources and technique carved through time. Tang Hao had greater natural capacity, but rage now wasted that capacity through frantic movements. Lu Ren's 6-aperture vortex remained smaller, stable, and directed toward one deliberate result. Another black thrust aimed directly between his eyes. He tilted his head, felt the edge pass his temple, and stepped inside the sword's effective reach. Tang Hao recoiled, trying to regain the distance needed for Ghost Sword's sweeping shadows. Lu Ren's forward foot landed on the hem of his black robe. That simple pressure delayed the retreat long enough for the crimson blade to rise. Tang Hao cut downward at the trapped cloth, tearing himself free rather than contesting Lu Ren's gathered power. The improvised escape created half a yard, nowhere near enough for the fifth form to reset. He compensated by releasing another uncontrolled burst from the collapsing apertures. Dark energy struck the floor between them and blasted broken stone outward. Lu Ren crossed both forearms briefly, letting chi-tempered skin absorb fragments that would have pierced ordinary flesh. The blast pushed him sideways, but failed to break the circulation inside his chest. Tang Hao used that fraction of separation to restore a ring of sword shadows. Each image now trembled because the source energy had become dangerously unstable. The formation carried more destructive force than before, but less precision. Lu Ren altered his approach from weaving through fixed gaps to provoking mistakes in their timing. A brief feint left drew several shadows away from Tang Hao's right side. Spirit Cat steps reversed instantly and attacked the opening those shadows abandoned. Tang Hao twisted his wrist too late, forcing the black blade across his own body in defense. Crimson steel touched black steel, but Lu Ren withheld the gathered vortex rather than releasing it prematurely. The light contact measured Tang Hao's remaining grip and revealed severe weakness in his injured arm. Lu Ren disengaged before the self-detonating energy could travel across both weapons. Tang Hao mistook that choice for hesitation and pressed forward with renewed confidence. His sword shadows spread wider, opening another path near the center without him noticing. Lu Ren entered that path and forced the successor to pivot on an unsteady rear leg. Repeated impacts had already compromised Tang Hao's balance before the fifth form began. Every later retreat aggravated those injuries and reduced his ability to coordinate the shadow array. Lu Ren needed no additional technique to exploit consequences created during the opening exchange. Tang Hao shouted that he would never lose to someone without even a measurable bloodline. His voice climbed from anger into desperation. As the crimson sword approached again, Lu Ren reminded him that bloodline labels had not opened one path through the defense. The contest was now decided by position control, and what each fighter had sacrificed to obtain them. Tang Hao had sacrificed his future in one furious moment. Lu Ren had sacrificed centuries of lived solitude, one repetitive day at a time. Neither cost appeared on the true dragon compass, but both were visible in their movements now. Tang Hao swung faster, sending 3 jagged waves across the plaza in quick succession. The first missed when Lu dropped center place beneath it. The second met 8 trigram palm and changed direction toward an empty pillar. Stone split where redirected sword energy struck the ancient structure. Lu Ren met the third with Fire Spirit's sword and divided its unstable center. Black energy separated around him, cutting 2 trenches into the floor instead of his body. The effort cost Tang Hao another surge from his disintegrating apertures. His aura flared brightly, then dipped below its previous level for the first time. Su Fu recognized that the self-detonation could not maintain peak force much longer. Tang Hao understood the same thing and abandoned any attempt to outlast his opponent. He drew every remaining sword shadow into one final rotating formation. Darkness wrapped the black blade until its original metal disappeared inside jagged energy. The pressure forced nearby competitors behind the farthest pillars. Cracks radiated from Tang Hao's feet as his failing body carried power beyond its safe limit. Lu Ren stopped advancing and finally gave the gathered cyclone space to release. 6 active apertures emptied in sequence rather than collapsing simultaneously. Their energy entered the stabilized vortex, accelerated, and emerged through his sword arm. Qi, nourishment kept muscles and meridians together while the power crossed them. Without that body tempering, the explosive spirit art would have injured its user before reaching the blade. Fire Spirit's sword changed from translucent crimson into the bright center of a surrounding gale. Loose dust spiraled toward Lu Ren, then rose around him in widening circles. Tang Hao released a raw cry and drove Ghost Sword's 5th form forward. Hundreds of dark edges moved together, erasing the last visible route between both fighters. Lu Ren answered with the final celestial vision sequence, refined through hidden decades. The first motion resembled a simple foundational swing, rather than an elaborate inherited form. Perfect basics aligned shoulder, waist, legs, and blade before the stored cyclone expanded. That alignment prevented one fragment of the 6 aperture force from escaping uselessly. Crimson sword energy left the Fire Spirit sword as a concentrated arc. The arc widened into a storm as it met the outermost ghost sword shadows. Black edges shattered in layers. each break feeding turbulence into the collision. Tang Hao leaned forward and forced more detonating energy through the damaged formation. Lu Ren kept both hands steady, while the recoil traveled through his tempered frame. The two attacks ground against each other above the scarred plaza. Stone fragments lifted from the floor and vanished inside the opposing sword currents. Pillars groaned as pressure spread from the point where crimson and black first touched. Outside the cave, the viewing formation filled with light and distorted the battle's finer details. Great Elder Ming saw only Lu Ren standing inside the brighter center. Elder Xia waited for the superior aperture count to force Ghost Sword through. Gu Yifan gripped his empty scabbard, recognizing the fifth form his own junior had sacrificed everything to release. Yin Xingyao recognized her sword art beneath Lu Ren's far more powerful execution. The student, she guided hand over hand, had carried those movements beyond what she demonstrated. Inside Tuosha Plaza, the black formation began losing its outer layers. Each broken shadow exposed another, but the crimson storm continued expanding. Tang Hao attempted to rebuild the collapsing side with energy from his final intact aperture. That last reservoir ruptured before the correction stabilized. His body lurched, making the real black sword drift away from the formation's center. Lun saw the misalignment and rotated the fire spirit sword through one final angle. The crimson gale struck the weakened point, instead of wasting force across the entire shadow wall. A sharp fracture cut through the roar as Ghost Sword's structure separated. Tang Hao tried to close the break, but his injured wrist no longer followed the command. The black blade shook inside hands, already numbed by the earlier exchanges. Lu Ren's sword storm entered through the fractures and expanded behind the outer defense. Tang Hao's own shadows were caught between pressure from both directions. Jagged edges collided with one another and dissolved into chaotic streaks. The fifth Ghost Sword form stopped resembling a controlled technique. Its remaining darkness spun around Tang Hao, like debris trapped in a violent current. He screamed another refusal, still unable to accept the bloodless fighter in front of him. Lu Ren did not answer because every breath now supported the sword's final advance. His 6 emptied apertures continued feeding residual energy through the vortex until nothing remained. Fire Spirit's sword swept forward, with the accumulated result of every hidden year. 55 years had opened the first aperture that bloodline talent denied him. 82 more had perfected the low-grade techniques everyone else discarded. Later decades built the sword forms, body tempering, and secret release, supporting this single confrontation. Tang Hao brought 10 apertures and the Ghost Sword legacy into Tuosha's cave. Lu Ren brought time, patience, and a refusal to accept the limit attached to his birth. The crimson gale overwhelmed the frantic aura surrounding the successor. Sword chi spread across the plaza, like a storm swallowing sky, stone, and every remaining shadow. Its roar buried the sounds of cracking tiles and breaking black energy. Tang Hao disappeared behind the collision as his scream cut through once. Lu Ren remained at the center with both hands, driving the fire spirit sword forward. His crimson sword storm swallowed the fifth ghost sword form and drowned Tang Hao's scream.